used to be married to one of the co-founders of Google, Sergey Brin, who is reportedly worth $130 billion. And the reason I think this is relevant to what we're discussing today is on Thursday night, we had this interview, that's in air quotes, by Oprah Winfrey of Kamala Harris. Oprah Winfrey, she may not have as much money as Sergey, but she's got some $4 billion. And I was saying to the audience, she has become completely unrelatable. She has no idea what the problems of the working class are. The old Oprah, who we fell in love with in our living rooms back in the late 80s, early 90s, is gone. She's evaporated. There is a new elite David Geffen yacht riding version of her trying to pretend to be that other person. And I read in one of the articles that you participated in that you spent some time in that world, that, you didn't come from anything, but suddenly you're married to one of the richest people on earth. And you felt that. You talked about how you felt that disconnection, like the astronaut who gets his line tethered from the spaceship. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's, I think you're spot on about Oprah. And, Megyn, I've heard you talk about it too, going to these parties with celebrities and talking very superficially and how everyone's looking at you, but they're also looking behind you to see who their next social target is. Yep. And so I spent 8 years in that world, and I had been a self-made young woman. I grew up poor in Oakland, spent time on government assistance. Parents didn't work, never had a home or a rental of their own. I lived in grandparents' homes. And I worked really hard. I believed in a merit-based society. I found my way to Stanford University as a postdoctoral fellow in law and computer science, was building a very sophisticated early AI. It was a large language model on the patent corpus. And I met Sergey, and that was 2014. And you have to remember, in 2014, tech could do no wrong. It was still considered this breakthrough, fun, lighthearted exercise in human endeavor. And it was fun here in the Bay Area. It was people could experiment, and it was very liberal and liberating. And I saw things change here in Silicon Valley. I can talk about the wealth too. I mean, when you have unlimited wealth, you think differently and you think bigger sometimes, but then you can also lose sight of what the world is really like for everyone else. And I will say that, Silicon Valley changed a lot in 2016 after the election. Trump won, Hillary lost, tech was blamed for it. And things changed really dramatically. The risk profile of being a tech elite changed. I saw families around us who went from small security teams to small armies.
Wow.
And that's the reality amongst these top billionaire families, is that their security teams rival. They're better than the Secret Service for sure now.
Well,
doesn't say much.
Well, no, we hope so.
Yeah, but these are really sophisticated personal armies, and the wealthy in this country today are more organized and more powerful than the United States government, in my opinion. It's really scary.
They've got their armies, they've got their guns, they've got their self-protection, they've got their compounds, they've got their kids set for life. That I think is why you said, it was in an interview with People, what I learned in the marriage was it's nearly impossible to have mega wealth and be deeply grounded. And yet these people are everywhere. Look at who zoomed into that so-called town hall. Meryl Streep, right? Chris Rock, Julia Roberts, Oprah Winfrey, not one of them is going to have to live with the consequences of a Harris-Walz administration when it comes to criminal justice, when it comes to the way we eat, when it comes to the Second Amendment, when it comes to anything.
They're immune to it. They're completely immune to it because they can send their children to private schools where the parental rights still exist. They can move their children from expert healthcare provider to expert healthcare provider. They can evade vaccine mandates. They can evade lockdowns. I saw it. I lived it. I was able to evade some of the lockdowns because we were so immensely wealthy. We could rent entire airplanes out. Well, yeah, had private airplanes as well, but you could fly anywhere. You could go to Fiji. You could get a special license, and that really disgusted me. I think I got to a point in my experience living this double standard where I was surrounded by all of these public health experts that were locking everybody else down, but we were able to kind of just evade all of these lockdowns. Um, I, it's wrong. It's morally and ethically wrong. And I would love to see a world in which some of these elites open their eyes and just take into consideration what life is like for, the mom who owns the small retail shop I was just talking to here in California, who has high school aged girls in the public school system and coming home with English homework where they interview their parents on gender ideology.
Oh, my Lord.
And if you're conservative, right, or not even conservative, many of these Californian parents are liberals. They believe in liberty and freedom and being who you are. But now they're having to play these games with the school where they have to show that they're buying into the gender ideology just so that their kids can get by every day, so that the families aren't singled out. And so they're playing into these pronouns, even though they don't necessarily believe in the pronoun ideology, but they have to teach their kids that at school you have to be one way, but you're still allowed to have your own belief system. And that being a woman or a girl or heterosexual is just as important, right? It is who you are and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. But, being in a public school system right now is really, really hard. And the elite left have no idea what the rest of the country is going through. Many of them, when I tell them that there are sandboxes and bathrooms for furries, they're like, what the hell are you talking about, Nicole? I'm like, no, this is real. This is actually
Remember how the media didn't believe that Kamala Harris had said in her ACLU questionnaire in 2019, she wants taxpayers to fund sex change procedures, operations, and medications for prisoners and illegal immigrants. And the media thought that was so outrageous, it had to be a lie. It was written in her own hand, right? They're so out of touch with what's happening in this realm that the gender thing is just one. They can't possibly believe it. By the way, Oprah Winfrey doesn't even have children, so she doesn't even have to worry about this being done to her offspring. She has none, which is particularly galling. It may be why she didn't ask one question about that, but she was very interested in abortion. Let's make sure we have the right to abort the babies, but we're not going to spend any time on what's being done to them once they're born.
Yeah. Yeah. And I run into this chasm, this ideological chasm on the left where they become very myopic on these issues. And they sometimes can't see past the veneer, the things that are marked a human rights issue, and then a veneer put over them. They'll abide by completely, wholeheartedly, and with blinders up. And so unless you experience some of these things firsthand, you don't truly understand the impact and implications. And I saw a lot of this in my work in women's health and women's reproductive research, because I wanted to fund foundational science into ovarian function and how to keep healthy women healthy longer. I also was very curious as to why so many women were having infertility issues. And then I wanted to figure out if there were ways that we could provide fertility services that were not thrusting women into egg freezing and IVF. There's got to be this intermediate ground we could be looking at. Mm-hmm. And so I contributed $100 million into this. And I will say, finding scientists who want to do this work for women, to allow women to have natural childbirth when they're ready in their 40s. You know, women in their 40s have been having healthy babies for a very long time. This is not an unusual, odd concept. But I kept running into these groups that use the word reproductive longevity and fertility to infer assisted reproductive technology, which is
so interesting.
Very big jump. And I kept running into these transhumanists. I'm going to use the word transhumanist, but you can use whatever word you want. You can just, artificial reproductive technology is a very common one. But what's falling under that umbrella of assisted reproductive technology is truly science fiction. But it's here. It's real. It's considered science today. And, you have individuals like Martine Rothblatt, who's a transsexual, was a man, is now identifying as a woman, sits on the board of the Mayo Clinic, authored the first gender bill, runs something called a xenotransplantation farm, which
I'm afraid.
Yeah. It's definitely something that we should all be aware of is happening. But xenotransplantation technology is a way of moving genetic material around. And it can be animal genetic material. It can be genetic material from multiple humans. And, it's well on path to creating a new species. I don't know if you can call them humans. But it, the science is working right now, and I haven't seen any attention being put on this.
Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you, that someone somewhere has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. It's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name. Then they take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. By the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use promo code Megyn for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure you are not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com or by using the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.